Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Nvidia daily update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Nvidia. Let's talk about what is happening to Nvidia, what we can expect moving forward with the stock and all that good stuff. So if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice and I'm not a financial advisor. And of course, if you enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts on the charts, well, again, I do share my thoughts with the members every single day as the market's open, as the market is trading. So definitely check that out if you're interested. That link is of course down below, including, this post I did 6 hours ago near the morning, right? Where I mentioned how Nvidia likes to, nice strength today, and this was as it was still pushing up. This was near the morning. But remember, the stock seems to enjoy moving at $5 increments. So 195 can start seeing some issues here plus we're also pretty extended. That could be a pit stop for the stock to calm down, cool off a bit, or wait for the 9 EMA to catch up to the price before resuming our path. And you can see this is when the stock was still pushing up 193.79, right? And guess where we topped out today? 195.3 pretty much. Pretty close to that 195, isn't it? So, hey, it is what it is. The stock loves those $5 posts. Oh, $5 posts, $5 moves. But again, these are the kind of posts. So if you're interested, link is below, guys, in the description. Definitely check it out. $5 a month or $3 a month gives you access to the first tier, all my Tesla updates, broader market updates. $5 includes the Nvidia updates. And then, of course, $7 includes everything else, including private access to my Discord. We have a chat room there with members that, trade, share thoughts, etc. Chart requests that I do with members on Discord every single Sunday. And I, of course, post all my tier 3 posts on YouTube as well, constantly sharing thoughts of essentially non-Tesla, non-Nvidia stocks in the market that are, worth sharing or something is setting up nicely, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So anyways, with that being said, Nvidia up a respectable almost 2% on the day, especially on a day where the market was not, the most confident. Well, it was confident, but it was red. The market was red, simply put, right? And Nvidia holding strong off of the news from last night, right? So pretty good stuff, getting that gap up and so far holding. Now, the most ideal thing for me, I'll be completely honest, the most ideal thing for me is that we do not get this gap fill down below. If Nvidia, essentially the lowest it goes is pretty much 2 days low and it doesn't break 2 days low, that to me will be the most ideal scenario because bullish gap ups are extra strong if we can continue holding this gap and not filling it. That's even more bullish, and that can of course make our way back up to $200 per share. Now that's the more bullish, higher tier, if you will, of bullish confidence. The still bullish, but less bullish, but still bullish would be, yeah, we do come down and fill the gap. Yeah, we do make our way down. Yeah, we do come fill this gap over here, right? Roughly, 189, 190. But all we do is essentially turn this region right here. That was a clear resistance for 1, 2, 3, 4 days in a row, almost in a row, right? Except for this one little candle here. But, very blatant resistance here, 189, 190. And then, of course, all we have to do is turn that back into a support and then, of course, make our way higher off of that, right? So that's kind of my more base case, if you will, bullish scenario. So again, let's see how that plays out. But we have the 9 EMA all the way down here. So, if the stock can kind of chill up here or it does get that initial pullback, I want to see the 9 EMA catch up to price, kind of like what it did here, right? Same idea. Massive move to the upside, pretty extended from the 9 EMA. And what did we do? Yeah, we kind of cooled off a tiny bit, caught up to the 9 EMA, and then we headed higher. Essentially like that. That's my base case, but same thing just here, right? Again, and the more bullish cases, of course, we just go sideways and then go up, right? Whichever one. But now, obviously, let's talk about the bad case. What if things don't go so well? What if we get a large reversal? What if there's a massive bull trap? There's always that possibility. Naturally, like I said, I still lean bullish, of course, absolutely, right? I mean, the chart looks bullish. It's hard not to be bullish here. But there's always a risk, right? There's always a risk. No matter how bullish something looks, there's always a risk and there's always a potential scenario where that bullishness is instantly turned around, right? What would be that? In my opinion, a large gap down. If we get a large gap down for whatever reason, let's say Nvidia gets a large gap down tomorrow morning and it opens down at 189 instantly, right? And it leaves this gap up here like this and we open up like right here and then make our way down. That could be a concern because then we start potentially printing an abandoned baby candle pattern here, maybe even a 1-hour island top pattern. That would be bearish. That would be very bearish, actually. That would be a potentially strong reversal setting up for Nvidia, especially if the stock doesn't fill that gap back up ASAP. Right? So that's like that concern, if you will, right? Now, again, this is one of those things where it's more of like, I'm not saying it's going to happen. It's more of like, if it happens, if we, let's say, for whatever reason, gap down tomorrow significantly back to like 189 or something like that, or worse, that's something that would be a major concern. And that's something that, it's worth paying attention to as, hey, that's not good. That probably shouldn't be happening, right? So again, worth mentioning, but that's the more potential bear case that can potentially, create itself into existence. But again, it's one of those things where I would rather see that happen. I'm not going to assume something like that's going to happen. It's a pretty big assumption, right? It is a pretty large assumption to make. Not impossible, but it's a large assumption, which in my opinion also has probably a fairly low probability of happening. I'd rather see that happen than, assume that's going to happen, especially something like that. Worth mentioning. But nonetheless, overall, my target to 200 remains, especially as long as we hold the 9 EMA. And ideally, if we get any retrace down to 189 to 190, again, a proper retrace, not a gap down retrace, a proper retrace. Yeah, that will be my kind of, level to watch for. $200 is still my target. 1 hour time frame. We are kind of flagging a little bit here on the 1 hour time frame, right? Nice little flag setting up here. So, the ideal scenario is we do not lose, not only we do not lose essentially about 192, high 191, something like that. We do not lose that. But on top of that, what do we also do? We do not lose this trend line, right? Remember before when we were getting this nice rally over here, I mentioned that trend line. Remember that trend line that I kept talking about? I think it was like this one here. And then we lost that, right? Remember this one here? And then we got that retrace. Kind of the same idea, right? Same idea. If we lose this trend line, yeah, probably get that retrace back down to, 189, 190. The same way we did it here. But then we bounced off of it. Then we bounced off of it. It'll be the same thing. It'll be the same thing in my opinion, unless of course, obviously something else starts to show its face, unless we start getting, not a bullish bounce off of it. We don't turn it back into support. Obviously problems can arise, but as of right now, like I said, until proven otherwise, I do continue giving bulls the benefit of the doubt, whether it's straight from here or whether it's something like this, right? Again, same thing over here, whether it could have been like this or like this. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, it's pretty much the same thing. It's literally the same thing, just a bit smaller. But again, as long as those key levels hold, I still overall maintain my target to about $200 per share, maybe even 205 potentially, going into earnings on Nvidia, moving forward from here. To me, it's just a matter of do we go like this or do we just go blast straight to it, I don't know, early next week? That's the only question I have right now, at least personally speaking. What else? I think that's pretty much it. There's not really too much else to say for the stock other than that. Overall, still looks pretty good to me. A little bit extended. So, again, worth mentioning, that 189 retrace wouldn't be, the end of the world or anything like that, but, worth mentioning. Nice volume today as well. But yeah, not really much else to say. Pretty simple stuff, honestly. So yeah, let's take a look at options flow, see what's happening here with Nvidia. Nice consistent bullish flow, 72 million bullish flow, 6 million bearish flow. So the bull's definitely taking full control over here overall, but nothing really standing out to me, right? No bullish flow that really stood out to me that as anything really that meaningful, to be completely honest with you. It's just very standard flow, to be honest. It's kind of boring, but standard, consistent but strong flow. Just nothing unusual, right? Nothing that just kind of, makes me take a second look. You know what I mean? Just very standard flow, which, it's fine. Nothing wrong with that. It's just nothing, jumping out to me, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Broader market, SPY, for instance, coming back down to that 9 EMA, holding pretty well today, right? Holding the 9 EMA, not really losing those key levels, right? And like I said, the main levels for me for SPY, where I would start getting worried is the first level, which is small worry, nothing really crazy yet, but, okay, maybe a little small worry, small, little smidge of a worry. Yeah, losing the 9 EMA, right? Essentially below, I'd say about 668. Ish, right? That would easily bring the market back down, at least SPY back down to the 21 EMA and this trend line, which is going to be sitting at around 664. So about a $4 move to the downside, which is not that crazy. I mean, from here, that would be like maybe 1%, right? Nothing crazy. But that would be the major level. This is like the medium term level that I would be, more concerned if we start losing it, right? This trend line, the 21 EMA, which is kind of hiding behind this trend line here, that will be the more level, the higher level of concern, in my opinion, if lost, of course. Below that would be this level down here at around 655, because then we start losing this key level down here, this key level bottom that we set up, and then we start potentially reversing and starting making, potentially stronger lower lows even. So those would be the main levels. But the one that, would be enough for me to really start getting a little bit more defensive, absolutely would be this kind of trend line plus 21 EMA kind of double support. It's a strong supports, right? It will take a lot for the bears to break down past those levels, but it's not impossible. Of course, anything is possible. You never really know, right? Until it happens. But again, until that happens, I continue remaining bullish on the market. And that's probably the easiest way I can put it. But yeah, all in all, thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.